Good evening, fight fans. It is time for the Iman Report. It is Saturday, July 17th, and tonight we are here to recap UFC on ESPN, Makhachev versus Moises. This one was a bit of a snoozer. Pretty much Makhachev dominated Thiago Moises, ultimately gets the finish in the fourth round, and Makhachev improves to 20-1. Moises was game. He wasn't that bad, but he was still getting dominated by a much better fighter in Islam Makhachev. Makhachev certainly looking to get a fight near the title shot after tonight. Problem is, the lightweight division is very stacked. You're going to have at some point Charles Oliveira fight Dustin Poirier for the title. You got Justin Gaethje, who will likely fight Michael Chandler at some point. Let me get the lightweight division up while I'm at it. Here we are. Now the rankings are up. Then you're probably going to have, as I said, Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje face off at some point later this year. Where does this leave Islam Makhachev for his next fight? I think it's going to give him one or two fights away from a title shot. That's how close he is. I do think Islam is one or two wins away from fighting for the belt at this point. So what could be next for Islam? I think a fight with Beneil Dariush is what should be next. Dariush on a bit of a winning streak. Dariush has won 7 or 8 fights in a row, coming off a very good win against Tony Ferguson. He's got wins over Diego Ferreira, Scott Holtzman, Drakkar Klose, Drew Dober, and Thiago Moises. His last loss was to Alexander Hernandez. So I think this is the next fight to make. Dariush versus Makhachev is what should be next. It's not exactly the most flashiest fights, but these are two fighters that are riding long winning streaks. These two fighters are on a collision course. It would be a great fight headliner for a fight night event. So give me Dariush versus Makhachev, and this should be a wrestling clinic. As for Thiago Moises, simply was just outmatched. Maybe he's a top 15, who knows, but for him it's the back of the line for him. I say give him the loser. I'd say what should be next for him is Alexander Hernandez. Let me make sure they have not fought each other. Yep, they haven't fought each other, so I'm going to go Thiago Moises versus Alexander Hernandez. That's what should be next. Hernandez, a fighter that is usually hovering around the top 15. So that's what I think. So that's what I'll go with. Moises versus Hernandez. That's what should be next. In the co-main event, welcome back Miesha Cupcake Tate. She knocks out Marion Renault in the third round. And man, it seems like Miesha Tate had very little ring rust. She looked like the same Miesha Tate we've seen back since 2016. Yeah, 2016 is the last time Miesha Tate has fought in the UFC, and she looked pretty sharp. Granted, it was against Marion Renault, a fighter who's going to retire, but still, she looked pretty pretty solid. I do think she gets booked against another top 15. That's what's likely next for Miesha Tate. We take a look at the rankings. But no, it's not yet time for her to give her another fight against Amanda Nunes. No, she's got to earn. She's got a little bit of ways to go before she earns another fight against Amanda Nunes. But maybe Alina Landsberg, maybe a Pani Kianzad is what should be next. Check, see who's booked with who. The winner, I think I'll go with that. The winner of Raquel Pennington and Pani Kianzad is what should be next. Granted that Miesha Tate did her last loss many years ago was to Raquel Pennington, I think. Yeah, that's her last loss. So maybe you go with that. Maybe you give her. You could perceivably go with Lena Landsberg. If she's not booked, I'm going to take a look at her. Okay, I think I'll go with that. Next for Miesha Tate is should be Lena Landsberg. I'll go with Landsberg versus Tate. That should be a very good fight. Landsberg ranked number 10. Maybe another good tune-up fight for Miesha Tate. Another favorable fight for Miesha Tate against Lena Landsberg. That's what should be next. As for Marion Renault, she retired after the fight, so she's pretty much calls it a career. Matsus Gamrot, first round submission of Jeremy Heathen Stevens. Gamrot, a fighter that is on the brink of the top 15 at the lightweight division. Gamrot looked impressive over Jeremy Stevens. Yes, I do think Gamrot deserves a fighter that is on the edge of the top 15 next. I think for Gamrot, you give him Drew Dober. That would be a very fun fight. It could, we'll see if Dober is still ranked or not. No, he's not ranked, but you could, Arman Sarukian, that's an interesting one. Let's make sure he's not booked. Arman, yeah, he's not booked, and this will be a very intriguing fight, actually. I think I'll go with this one. This one might be a very fun fight between two up-and-comers. Matsus Gamrot versus Arman Sarukian is what should be next. Sarukian ranked 15. And if Gamrot gets a win over Sarukian, Gamrot will have a number next to his name. Sarukian ranked 15th. Let's see if he is a top 15 fighter. That's the fight to make right there. As for Jeremy Stevens, after what he did to Drakkar Klose, this is karma. I do. I think this is karma for Jeremy Stevens. Karma is a bitch. Stevens has lost 5 fights in a row. His last win was to yeah, Stevens, of course, earlier this year shoved Drakkar Klose, causing a spinal injury at the weigh-ins. He's lost 5, and he's 0-5 and won no contest in his last 6 fights. He's lost to Gamrot, Cater, Yair, Zabit, Aldo. His last win was in 2018 to Josh Emmett. I honestly have no interest in it. I think 0-5-1 is usually the kiss of death. And for me, this is karma for Stevens. I do. I think this is karma for Jeremy Heathen Stevens for shoving Drakkar Klose. And I think he is well deserving of a pink slip after tonight. I think Jeremy Stevens should and needs to be cut. Goodbye. And Stevens is a punk. That's just how I feel it. And wow, Akhmedov was recently cut by the UFC, so yeah. So hopefully he is cut. Nothing left to see there. Rodolfo Vieira gets the submission victory in a fight where he was getting dominated in the first 2 rounds against Dustin Stoltzfus. Vieira now improves to 3-1 in the UFC. A much needed win for Vieira. And a big comeback win for Rodolfo Vieira. And he is now 8-1 in the UFC, Rodolfo Vieira. And currently ranked 35 at middleweight, so he is probably going to get a step up in competition. And I think that should be the winner of Phil Hayes and Darren Wynn, is what should be next for Rodolfo Vieira. As for Stoltzfus, he is now 0-2 in the UFC. He could be on the verge of being cut. But he could get one more chance, granted that he was dominating for the first two rounds, and Stoltzfus could get one more opportunity in the octagon. And in the opener, Billy Q Quarantillo unloads on Gabriel Benitez, gets the win in the 5th round. In the 3rd round, Mark Smith saw enough, and this was a good call. He calls it, gets the knockout win. A big win for Quarantillo. And now Billy Q called out Charles Rosa afterwards. I'll get You want it, you got it. I think that would be a banger of a fight between Billy Quarantillo and Charles Rosa. That's what should be next. Gabriel Benitez, what should be next for him? Benitez 1-3 in his last 4, so he could certainly be in jeopardy in his next fight. And also a good comeback after losing to Gavin Tucker. So for Benitez, he probably gets a fighter that is near the cut line next. I'm thinking Tristan Connolly is maybe what should be next for. I'll go with Tristan Connolly. That's what should be next for Gabriel Benitez. On to the prelim card. Daniel Rodriguez gets back in the win column against Preston Parsons, who was a late replacement. Rodriguez starting to climb the ladder a bit in the welterweight division. Daniel Rodriguez now 15-2 in the UFC in his career. He's won 2 in a row. He is 5-1 in the UFC. I do think a step up in competition is what should be next for Daniel Rodriguez, as he is approaching the top 15. You know what? I think this will be a fun fight. Michael Pereira versus Daniel Rodriguez. That would be a very fun fight. Yeah, they've not fought each other. This would be a banger. Daniel Rodriguez versus Michael Pereira. Make it happen. And for Preston Parsons, a debutante, what should be next? Amanda Lemos in a questionable knockout against Montserrat Ruiz. Yeah, Chris Tognoni, being the bum he is. Chris Tognoni, LONCM MKYT, welcome. Thanks for joining us in the chat tonight. But Tognoni being a bum, I did not like the stoppage by Tognoni for Lemos. But Lemos gets the knockout there. Lemos gets the knockout. What should be next for Amanda Lemos? So we take a look at the rankings. Maybe John D. Roba. Let's see if they've fought each other or not yet. And let's make sure Verna's not booked. No, she's booked against Amanda Hebus. The winner of Jandiroba and Hebus is what should be next for Amanda Lemos. Montserrat Ruiz. She loses to Lemos. Probably bit off a little more than she could chew in this one. So maybe a step backwards is what should be next for Ruiz. Give her the winner of and I don't know how she's still in the UFC after losing 4 fights, but the winner of Jessica Penny and Karolina Kowalkiewicz is what should be next for Montserrat Ruiz. Fight before that, Sergey Morozov beats Khalid Taha via unanimous decision. Let's see where Morozov is ranked according to Tapology. And Sergey Morozov now 17-4. Ranked 63 according to Tapology. He's 1-1 in the UFC. So I think what should be next for him is probably a fight against I'd say the winner of no, I mean but maybe give him Nate Maness is what should be next for. I'll go with Nate Maness is what should be next for him. As for Khalid Taha now, he's now 0-2 and 1-2-1. No, make that 1-3-1. So you might get one more fight. Probably against a fighter who is in danger of being cut at this point. So let's see which fighter is up near the cut line. Any fighter that's probably in jeopardy is what should be next for Taha at this point. Let's see what else is ranked. Let's see what else is there. That's okay. I think maybe Gabriel Silva is possibly if Gabriel Silva gets one more chance in the UFC. Then yeah, I think Gabriel Silva is maybe what could be next for Taha in a loser leaves town. We'll go with that one. And the fight before that, Malcolm Gordon keeps his job against Francisco Figueiredo. Gordon wins it by unanimous decision. Gordon was the better fighter in this one. This was a much needed win for Malcolm Gordon, who was in danger of being cut. Malcolm X Gordon now 13-5. And this was his first win as a UFC fighter. He avoids the dreaded 0-3, which is really good. That's next for Malcolm X Gordon. I think Jeff Molina is what should be next. We'll go with that. And for Francisco Figueiredo, falls to 12-5. He is now 1-1 in the UFC. And maybe give Jordan Espinoza next. We'll go with that. And in the opening fight of the night, Rodrigo Nascimento beats Alan Baudot via TKO. He improves to 9-1 in his MMA career. He is now 2-1 in the UFC, so that's a much better place to be than 1-2. So I think next for him is probably the winner of Alexander Rachmanov and Jared Vandera. And as for Alan Baudot, can't find him on the Tapology thing. Alan Bado's lost 2 in a row. He is 0-2 in the UFC. So that could very likely be the door for Alan Bado. And that will put a bow on UFC on ESPN 26. Next Saturday is UFC on ESPN 27. And this one is a banger of a card for a fight night. You've got Corey Sandhagen against TJ Dillashaw, Aspen Ladd against Macy Chiasson, Kyler Phillips against Raulian Paiva. That should be a fun fight. Darren Elkins against Derek Minner, Mickey Gall against Jordan Williams. And one on the prelims that should be fun. Julio Arce against Andre Ewell. So this one should be a banger. And then you got Paniuli Soriano against Brendan Allen. So this one, you got Chris Dakas against Shamil Abdurakhimov. So this is a pretty stacked card next week on ESPN for a fight night card. Definitely tune in. I'll be on to recap afterwards. Everybody have a good night. Take care of your mental health and just be good to others this week. Good night, everybody.